Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Pajama Party webinar. Looking forward to seeing you all. Thank you for signing up. If you'd like to put your name and where you're from in the chat, that would be great. Thank you. We're just waiting for everybody to sign in. Hello to everybody. Thank you for joining us for the Pajama Party webinar. If you'd like to put your name and where you're from in the chat, gives us an idea of where you've all come from. And we're just waiting for everybody to sign in, and then we'll get started this evening. So hello to everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening for the Pajama Party webinar. Lovely to see you all. If you would like to put your name and where you're from in the chat, and we'll get started as soon as we have everyone signed in. Nearly there. Hello, everybody. Thank you for signing up tonight. Lots of names that I recognise already, so good to see you. Thank you for joining tonight's webinar. We'll get started as soon as we feel we've got everyone signed in. It's really good to see you all this evening, or to know that you're there with us. Okay. So, I think we are okay to start. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. Very exciting to have you on board. And I just want to give you a little bit of information. So we are really excited to tell you that we have over 21,000 people signed up to take part in the Pajama Party. That's around about 17,000 young members and 3,500 volunteers, which is absolutely amazing. And I don't think any of us envisaged that that would be the number when we first started this back in the back end of last year. So it's absolutely amazing and very, very exciting. Also exciting to know that we've got some units from every county taking part as well. So it really is a region-wide event, which is very, very exciting. Orders are being placed this week to purchase the things that are going to go into the packs that you've all ordered. So busy times at region office, and we can't wait to get those all out to you later on in November once we have everything in our hands. So this evening's agenda, we will be talking to you about venues, risk assessments, the REN Part 1, an exciting new thing that you don't know about yet, which is the Promise Renewal webinar. And then there will be a Q&A session afterwards as well. So hopefully we can answer your concerns. If we can't, if we don't know the answer, we will get back to you. Any questions, do pop them in the chat. I believe there are people there who will pick them up for you. And I also want to say a special thank you to Karen Latto tonight, who is a region trainer who has joined us this evening to help us out. Much appreciated. Thank you, Karen. So, moving forward to venues. We hope that you've all managed to find venues to hold your sleepover, which however you are doing it. one thing that we want to bring to your attention is that your venue must be approved by the relevant advisor. So every county should have a list of venues that are approved. If yours isn't on the list, then you need to notify the advisor in plenty of time so that they can come out and inspect it before you make firm plans. There are information and regulations highlighted on the Girl Guiding website, the link of which will be posted in the chat, for you to have a look at, because we do want to make sure that everybody's venue is safe and fits the criteria for you to hold a sleepover. So do make sure that yours is okay before you continue any further. So important information there. So the question is, has everybody been able to find a suitable venue? Do you have any concerns about finding a venue, and do you need additional venue support? If the answer is yes to any of those, then please do contact our region residential advisors, Pam Lacey and Sarah Crocombe. Again, their information is here, but will be posted and also will be saved for you. Excuse me. And they can either contact your county advisor or help you in any way that they possibly can. And I believe that I am, Gemma, if you contact Pam Lacey at Region, who, although she is away at the moment, maybe contact Sarah. I'm sure they can help you. So please get in touch with them. Thank you. So I'm now, with great pleasure, handing over to Karen, who is going to run through risk assessments with you. So everybody's favourite thing, but I know Karen will make it fun. So thanks, Karen.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for having me. Not only am I an Anglia trainer, but I'm also the county residential advisor for Hertfordshire as well for indoor holidays. So I know quite a lot about risk assessments. I've seen quite a few in my time. I thought it would be good to start with something a bit more interactive. So I'm going to ask you guys to put in the chat, what do you think you should be assessing when you're assessing a risk? So what things are you assessing when you're assessing a risk? Let's see what comes up in the chat. Have a think. So the sleeping space, exactly. Have you got beds? Have you got mattresses on the floor? What have you got? Anything that has the potential for harm, exactly. Yep, the activities, the food, the fire safety, brilliant venue. Any hazards, security, yep, ratios, yes. Perfect. So there's lots of really good things there. The kitchen, something very different from your usual activities, needs to be assessed as well. Yep, mobility, definitely. Potential dangers, brilliant. I think everyone's really on the ball with this. They've been thinking about their risk assessments already, which is really good. Security, definitely. So when you are making a risk assessment, there is actually a document, if we have the next slide, please, which is on the Girl Guiding website, which is what to do going away with and activities while away. It's a long document, but it does really help you with what it is that you want to do for your sleepover. So it will depend on whether you're doing a day visit or a residential, how many girls, what type of girls are going, the ages of them, your numbers, your accommodation type, the length of your stay. All of these things are considered in this document. And then if you go on to the next slide for me. And then at the end, we think about specific examples. So I'm going to show you some examples from a risk assessment, and then we'll talk about some more things that we could put onto it to make it more robust. So if we have a look at the next slide, this is really small. I'm very sorry about that. But these rows here come from the pre-populated risk assessment on the Girl Guiding website, which is a really helpful place to start. So what you're looking at is supervision behaviour of your children. How old are they? If you're taking away rainbows on a sleepover, your risk assessment is going to look very different to if you're taking away rangers. Think about kind of their height, their build. tables are a big hazard for rainbows because they catch them at shoulder height or at face height, whereas depending on how big they are, whereas your ranges will catch them around the chins, some of the little tables that you have in some centres. So you want to think carefully about who it is you're taking away and what it is that their risks are going to be and what their hazards are going to be. So the type of activity you've got to think about: craft activities, using scissors and sharp objects. Think about what you're taking away, what it is that they're going to be using. Glue, paint, got to think about the solvents. Are you going to do something different, maybe tie dyeing? That's something you've got to think about on your risk assessment with the dyes getting on their skin. How are you going to prevent that from happening? So that's something different. And if we have a look at the next one, we've got about games. You've got to think about, if they're games you play every week, it'll be on your unit risk assessment. But there might be some different games, some wide games that you might be able to play going on a sleepover. That's something very different. You have to risk assess the safety, the security of the site, the trips and falls through the woods, depending on where you're going. Is it suitable for the group? Is it suitable for their age? Is it something that's going to challenge them? How are you going to keep them safe while they're doing it? That's kind of the main thing. Ensuring the health and well-being of everyone is really important as well. So you might need to think about adjustment plans to go with your risk assessment, not just looking at what is safe for everybody, but if you have individuals with specific needs, you need to consider those as well. And then you've got food, thinking about your food safety, use of equipment around food, sharp knives, all of those things as well that you might not necessarily do in your unit, depending on what kind of equipment you've got in your kitchen there. So what else might you think of adding to that on a risk assessment? So we've got toilets. That's good. Think about use of toilets, especially overnight. How are you going to keep them safe? You're going to leave the lights on in certain areas. Financial risks you can think about as well. What happens if you have to cancel? That is always something to put on a risk assessment, but it's always very low risk. Sleeping area. Yep. What type of sleeping area have you got? Have you got bunk beds? Have you got mattresses on the floor? Those are things to consider as well in your risk assessment. And mental and health and well-being, definitely, Charlie. That's a really good point. How are you going to keep everyone mentally safe and well kept? And think about your adults as well. Your adults might have specific needs that they need covering. As adjustment plans are mentioned on the risk assessment, is that why they are requested to be submitted with the Part 1 REN? Yes. So if you have an adjustment plan, you should submit it with your Part 1 REN. It's so that everything is seen together by the advisors and your district commissioner who signs it off. So they can assess that everything is basically correct and in order. Additional risks for leaders with mobility issues. Yep, Rebecca, that's something you have to think about as well. Anyone with mobility issues, you have to think about the venue. How are they going to move around? How are you going to keep it safe for them? How are you going to avoid having things kind of left? Gemma, yeah, so these things do change and get updated. So your Part 1 of your REN is 12 weeks, which is 3 months in advance, but then your Part 2 is 4 weeks, and you should know by then who's coming. So you update it. So your first risk assessment might be quite generic. It might not have all your activities on it yet. So if you're thinking about booking archery, but you haven't got it confirmed yet, then it won't be on there until you get it confirmed, and then you add it on. Every time something changes, you basically do a risk assessment update and you send that to your district commissioner. So you can have one for all. You don't have to have one for each section, but you might find it easier to have a section for rainbows, a section for brownies, and a section for guides, and a section for rangers, just because there is quite a lot of differences. But you can put them all into one risk assessment. Will we know what activities are planned before Part 2 is due? Yes, quite possibly. I would always make sure I knew what I was going to do before I submitted my Part 2, because you have to submit a detailed activities plan with Part 2 as well. Gemma,
can I just add on that point for Gemma? No, was it the one about activity? Sorry, Shani. The activity sheets have now been shared so that you can choose which ones you would like to take part in, or at least give you a clearer idea of what's going to be there. they're all on the region website. So whilst Karen's talking, I'll see if I can find the link for you and pop it in the chat.
Thanks, Bonnie. That's brilliant. Gemma's asked, but we can't get part 1 signed off until the adjustment plans are submitted, which is where we struggle. So no, actually your part 1 can be signed off without the adjustment plans. It's part 2 that shouldn't be signed off without the adjustment plans. So if your district commissioner is refusing to sign it off without that, then get them to get in contact with their residential advisor, who should be able to advise that that's not the case. So you don't have to have your adjustment plans in place for part 1.
So part 1, Karen, is more it's almost like a permission to plan in a way.
It
isn't
is,
it?
yeah.
Yeah. And part 2 is your finer detail.
Yes, exactly, yeah. So we're going to talk about RENs in a minute as well. So hopefully that will help, and we'll talk about the online REN form, and we'll get that sorted as well, so everyone knows how that works and what we're going to do about that. Is there any questions about risk assessments that people should that people want to ask? Brilliant, thanks, Bonnie. To put the activity cards in the chat for everybody. Nope, I think I've bamboozled you all with risk assessments. The one thing I will say is that I've seen risk assessments that have ratings on them, like RAG ratings. And one of the things you want to think about really carefully is what those ratings actually mean. Because if something is high risk or highly likely, it generally means that there's a kind of very severe dangers. If you're planning something that is high risk, I would question whether actually it's suitable for your holiday. You want to be planning things that are medium and low risk, because then you can mitigate those risks. High risk generally means there's a chance of dying, and you don't want to be planning things that are high risk. So when you're having a look at it, you might think, oh no, fire, that's high risk, someone might get burned. But actually, that's not a high risk. High risk means kind of there's a danger of death on your risk assessment. So think carefully about how you're rating things as well, and just be sensible about it. Don't think I have to use all the categories, because you really don't. In fact, you probably shouldn't be using the high risk categories for your sleepovers. Brilliant. If we move on to RENs, there we go, there's some useful information there as well. We've got Pam and Sarah's email addresses again. So part 1 of the REN is basically your permission to plan. It's just telling your district commissioner that you're organising an event, and they say, yes, okay, you've thought about it enough, and we'll let you plan this and go ahead with it. So on Go, you can go to the tab which is events, and then you can do an online REN. Now, online RENs work really well when it's just your unit or just your district. You can also do a paper REN if you don't like the online REN. The paper REN really is useful if you've got more than one unit going, because you can't have 2 units joined on an online REN. So that's kind of the only downfall we've found of the online RENs at the moment, is that you can't sync 2 units together to do a joint pack holiday. There have to be 2 units that are joined in Go to be able to do the joint REN. If not, you can only do 1 unit on a REN or 1 district on a REN at one time. So if you look at the top of the screen, this is a screenshot, and this is kind of your home screen, your key information screen, and it tells you this is currently awaiting approval, this one. So your district commissioner will click some buttons and make it happen. They'll do the checks, all the checks on your DBS people and everything else, and they will say, yep, we approve you permission to plan. And then if we have a look at the next slide. So this is your event details. So this is where you put in what it is that you are going to be doing. So if you're merging 3 rainbow units, I would do a paper REN. It'll be easier for keeping track of who's going and what units are going. It just makes it easier. Whereas Go will handle 1 of your rainbow units, but then the other 2 might get lost in the system. Event name at the top, that is what is shown on Go as the name of the event. So if you just call it Pack Holiday, when you want to come to the next one, you might call it Pack Holiday 2. That's fine, but it's better if you give it a name. So it could be Harry Potter Pack Holiday, which is what we've just done. We've come back from our Harry Potter Pack Holiday. Or it could be Anglia Pyjama Party, because then you know what it is. And when you go back into it and go, it doesn't get lost among all the other ones as well. So when you're thinking of a name, it doesn't matter what you call it, but call it something memorable, something that you will be able to remember. This is the one that I'm working on at the moment. This is the one that we did then. You need to put in start times and end times, and it actually puts an actual time in. So be precise. If it's 2 o'clock, put 2 o'clock. If it's 2 o'clock, put 2 o'clock. You can leave it at the automatic time it puts in for you, which is normally the time you're filling in the form. But on the paper end, you'd put the time in anyway. So this just wants an exact time of when you're going to go. And then the next question is really important. If you are doing your going away with license for the pyjama party, make sure you push yes. If you're doing your going away license at any other time as well, make sure you push yes. And then you need to make sure you contact your residential advisor, because they're the people that will assess you. So I've actually made the decision not to take my unit away that weekend, because I'm assuming I'm going to be out and about with everybody being assessed, because that's what I do in my other time. We're going away at a slightly different time. So going away with assessment, if you want that, if you need that, put that in there. And then if you're organising a large scale event that is more than 100 people, good luck to you. That's very exciting. That's where you put that in there. And then you put how many nights away and where you're going and all the usual. Yes, it is 100 participants. Yes, sorry.
Karen,
so that includes your adults as well.
We had a question from Angela. She wanted to check, they're merging 3 rainbow units together. Does she do the online Ren?
Oh yeah, no, do the paper Ren. And because until all the units have been merged and it's all sorted on Go, you can only put it on one of those units on Go. So I'd do the paper Ren in that situation. Can you do a holiday assessment on a joint holiday? Yes, so you can do a holiday assessment where there is between 8 and 24 young members. That does not include your young leaders. If they go, they count separately. So it's kind of up to you whether you want to do it on that joint holiday or whether you've got someone who's got a license who can do it on the joint holiday. But yep, you can do them on joint holidays. That's no problem. You've just got to have between 8 and 24 people for your license. As a division, approximately 450. That's a large event. That's going to be great fun. Paper Ren for district if 4 units are going. If the whole district is going, then do it online. You can do it as a district event. If say you've got 6 units but only 4 are going, then I'd do a paper Ren, definitely. No, so that's just an example risk assessment, Johnny, in the thing. So you'll need to copy it and paste it into a table. I know it's annoying, but that would be the best way around that one.
Karen, do you want to add who, if they're doing a district or a division, who they should send their Ren forms to? So if the district commissioner is attending, she can't sign the Ren?
Yeah. So it gets a bit complicated on Go as well, because normally we have to get people at Region to push it to the right person. But if your district commissioner is going on the event, they have to get the division commissioner to sign it. If your division commissioner is going on the event, they have to get the county commissioner to sign it. And if the county commissioner is going, they have to get someone from Region to sign it. So it's always the next level up of who's going to sign it off. The advisors, generally it's the advisors, unless it's their own holiday, and then they have to go up to Region. But the county advisors generally will be there to support you as well. Brilliant. So on the next tab, we have participant numbers. Now for part 1, this will be an estimate. And when you do your part 2, you will update this. So young leaders count in your child ratios for your numbers, but not for your license. So if you're doing your license, you can have up to 24 young members, but that doesn't include young leaders. But when you're doing your ratios, you need to count them because they're 14. Sorry if that confused everyone. It says volunteers age, so back on the last one, volunteers age 13 to 17. That includes your young leaders and any Duke of Edinburghs that you take and any children that you take that are that age. So yeah. So Angela, yeah, if you're doing your license, you can have 24 girls and you can take young leaders as well if you want on top of those 24. Yeah, in addition. No problem at all. So on the next tab, we have your volunteers. Now, at the top, you'll see there's a blue box that says complete for international permission to plan part 1 and part 1. And then you'll see there's a white bit that has lots of links. Now, the easiest way to fill in this page is to copy the link and email it to the person who's going to do that job. So your first aider, there's a link for the first aider, and you just copy that, email it to your first aider. They click on it, put their go number in, tick to say they're happy they're coming, and it will automatically update your REN. And it is so much easier than trying to do it manually. So if you copy that link, and the home contact you don't have to do until part 2. But you've got volunteer, not first aider, residential volunteer, first aider, and then your home contact. And all you do is you copy the link, email it to them, and they will tick and sign it. And it's really easy to do. And the people that I've sent them to have said they're really easy to do. Karen is going to have some day visitors coming as well. Yep, that's absolutely fine. So as long as you've got 24 girls sleeping and you're doing your overnight, yep, you can have day visitors as well. That's no problem. Yep, we can talk about ratio shortly. Let's talk about the rest of the REN first, and then we'll talk about ratios. So the next tab is then your information. So this is if you're going to be narrowboating or walking, if you've got 2 nights away or more, if you're responsible for catering, program, facilities, camping equipment. So that will check what modules you need to have on your going away with license as well, because if you do camping, you need module 8. And then your district commissioner will check this against your go record to make sure that you've got everything in place that you're able to do. And the next one is insurance. Now, most of the time you won't need additional insurance. It's only if you're doing something very adventurous that you might need some additional insurance. Or I believe if you're traveling internationally, you'll need your own separate insurance as well, possibly for some activities that you're doing. So on there, don't be afraid of saying, no, I don't need insurance, or yes, I confirm I've got the right insurance, because unless you're doing something very adventurous, and check with your residential advisor if you're not sure if you need additional insurance, the answer will be you don't need insurance. And then the next one is program and risk assessment. Now, all you do here is you put in the dates of when you've done it, because you're going to email it to your district commissioner. And then they will email it to the advisor if they need advice on it. So you don't need to actually, you can't upload your risk assessment or your activity plan to Go. It won't let you do it. You have to still email it. So when you email, you attach your risk assessment draft, you attach your activity plan draft, and then you say, I've done my REN on Go. And your district commissioner will be able to go in and have a look. They don't get alerted that there is a REN on Go. So they have to either manually go in and double check every day, which none of them will do because they don't have time to do that. Who has time to do that as a volunteer? Or you have to tell them that you've done it on Go. So if we go, why hasn't my REN been approved? It's probably because your DC might not know it's there, or they might have missed your email. So just double check with them and make sure that it's there. And then if we go to the next one. So this is just notes. This will tell you when it's been signed off and things like that. You don't need to do anything with this page. You can add notes if you want to, but you don't need to. And that's just the page. And then you save it and exit. And then you submit it and your DC will get it. And they will sign it off, hopefully, ready for you to plan, ready for part 2, where all you do is you just go in and update all the pages, update your numbers, make sure your home contact's added, and all the things around that, which is quite straightforward and simple. Is there any questions about RENs? If not, we'll talk about ratios briefly. Nope, it's all gone quiet in the chat. Quick one about the insurance. Yes, Angela. Just waiting for that question to come through. Do we need extra for personal belongings? It's just an overnight. No, you don't. So it's for things like adventurous activities where you might want some specialist insurance that you need the extra, but you don't for going on a residential. You don't need any extra. You don't need any like travel insurance type stuff. You don't need any of that. Brilliant. Just give it a second for any more questions. No. So ratios. So with your day visitors, you need to make sure they're included in your ratio for the day. So if, for example, you had 4 children arriving, you would need to have an extra adult arriving with them and staying with them for the day. So you've got the extra adult for your ratios. You need to have the right ratio for your age group, and unlike at your unit, they're compulsory ratios. So they're all on the guiding website, where it falls under the ratios that are on there. For residentials, they're compulsory ratios. So unlike at your unit where they're advisory, you have to have that number. I will say with rainbows, you have to have an extra adult who is not under the ratios. That's because they're the leader in charge. And with that age group, you need someone separate in charge who is not under the ratio. So not looking after girls, just because of the age they are. It just makes sense to have that extra pair of hands on hand, and that's a girl guiding rule and regulation that you need an extra adult who's the leader in charge. So the leader in charge doesn't actually count under your ratios. So you need to make sure your day visitors are covered in your residential ratios during the day. So you might want an extra adult to come for the day. But you don't need to worry overnight about having your day visitors covered, if that makes sense. So as long as you're covered at all times with the right number for the right number of girls you've got in front of you, that's what you need to have. I'm not explaining it very well. So if you had 20 girls, so it's 1 to 6 for brownies, yep. So if we say 24, that's 4 adults. But then if you had 4 extra girls coming during the day, you need to have a 5th adult during the day only to cover those girls that were staying for the day on the residential, even though they're not sleeping overnight. I think it's 1 to 6.
1 to 6 on a residential.
Yeah, on a residential. Yeah. Yep, even if they're not sleeping. Yeah. Yeah, because it's a residential event, even if they're coming for the day, they have to count under that residential numbers rule.
But that person can then leave when the girls leave.
Yeah.
They don't necessarily have to sleep there.
Yeah, does that help? So rainbows, I believe for a 5 and above is 1 to 4 plus an extra 1. And if they're under 5, so if you've got 4-year-olds in your rainbow unit, I believe there's a different ratio, but I don't know what it is offhand. It might even be 1 to 2.
Maybe can we put this information from the website into a link for everybody?
Yeah.
Because
there is one page on the website that has all
the
different ratios on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bonnie, are you all right to find that? Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, it's 1 to 2 for under fives.
Mm.
No, so it's all to do with the age. It's all to do with the age of the child. So yeah, under fives are 1 to 2.
Yes, that's correct, Shani.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
we also need to make people aware if they are bringing their own child to an event, then they do not count as part of the ratio.
Yeah.
So you need to bear that in mind. If you need to bring your child with you, which is absolutely fine, but then that knocks you out of the ratio equation and you need to find somebody else to come along too.
Yeah. You can take parent helpers, but they have to be DBS and Safe Space qualified. So that's something you'll need to get on as soon as possible. Yes, Angela. So it's 1 to 4 for rainbows, and the leader in charge doesn't count. So you have to have that extra adult for the leader in charge role. Unless you've got 4-year-olds, and then it gets more complicated. I don't know what it's like in other areas, but I know in Hertfordshire, DBSs are going through quite quickly at the moment. So, getting parents on board if you're running short of adults is definitely a good idea. Getting them DBS checked and getting them through their Safe Space 1 and 2, and get them ready to come on a residential and see what it's all about, and then get them volunteering, and then we'll get more volunteers. Yay!
That's how we drag
That's how
them
it
in.
works. So yeah. I believe there's a section that says what different groups it is, Sam. But it's definitely 1 to 4 for rainbows. And then I believe under fours is 1 to 2. Under fives is 1 to 2. Plus, it can't help to have the extra adult. It can't hurt to have the extra adults helping.
I was going to say,
definitely.
An extra pair of hands is never a bad thing, is it?
No, not at all. Brilliant. Is there any more questions about RENs or residentials or risk assessments? No, I think we're there. Yeah, so there is a section about under fives for your own children as well. But I think it's the same. We can double check this though and get that sent out. But I believe, yeah, we'll ask the team at Region. Yeah.
I can clarify all those ratios, and we'll put something on FAQs and share a link on social media and in the Facebook page for people.
Thank you, Bonnie.
What I've been looking at, I can't find anything specifically for under fives. It's just generic rainbows, but we'll keep digging and we'll get a clarification on that.
Perfect.
Thank you.
I'm going to pass back to you, Claire.
Thank you ever so much, Karen. That was really good. Okay, so I'm really, really pleased to announce that as of today, bookings are now open for the Promise Renewal webinar, which we'll be doing on the Saturday as it's Thinking Day. So you can sign up for the link, which will be on Eventbrite, I believe, Bonnie, yeah, for 4 o'clock on the Saturday afternoon, where myself and Karen, the Region Chief Commissioner, will be leading the Promise Renewal for the whole region. Yeah, very exciting that we can all do it together on World Thinking Day. So it will be held via Zoom. So hopefully you will all be able to join us, but we will share the instructions nearer the time, but please do sign up for it now. Yeah, it will pull us all together and we can all renew our promise together on the same day, which is wonderful. And moving forward, just are there any more questions that you would like to ask? I think it will be recorded, Janine. I know it won't be the same, and I do appreciate that that can be an issue for some people, depending on where you are having your pajama party. I'm not technical enough to know if there's any way around that, but I'm really sorry.
I think even if you can't join live, the promise
They could
renewal will
still
take
do
place at 5 o'clock, at 4 o'clock. So
it.
you could join in as your unit, and yeah, just hopefully sharing with the girls as well that there'll be 20,000 of you renewing your promise all at the same time, which is incredible. Quite a few questions come in. Still be doing planned activities. Ruby shared she'll still be doing planned activities at 4 o'clock, so they'll do the promise later. 100 of them, which is
Oh,
amazing.
wow, that's amazing.
Any recommendation? Sorry, go on.
No, I was just going to say, make sure you record us so that you can do it with us.
Yeah, good idea. How long would you recommend booking venues for?
I think that's very much up to each individual unit, or each individual sleepover, really. For a sleepover should be no more than 24 hours. Am I right, Karen?
The rules actually changed recently. It's now
Okay.
it's now one night. So you
It's
can
one
have
night.
both days either side of it. So it can be like
Okay.
longer than 24 hours now.
Okay, perfect. So that really does open it up to you. I would always recommend getting there yourselves earlier to set up, obviously. Make sure you're there to welcome the girls when they come in, and always leave yourself a bit of time at the other end to make sure you can tidy up once the girls have gone. Of course, they'll be doing a lot of the tidying for you, but yeah, make sure that you've got a little bit of leeway. It just depends what venue you are using, and what is possible for them. So please, there's no stipulation whatsoever. It's what suits you. So personally, and I know that Karen is on here, we are using a medieval barn that is a wedding venue.
Wow, that's very cool.
It is. It's going to be very cold as well, but
Yep.
it's very cool. So I think we're all in very, very different places. Yeah.
Angela, your question of if 18 hours counts for an overnight license, yes, it does. That's fine because it's overnight.
Thank you, Karen. Looks like there's some exciting venues being booked as well,
Yep.
which is great.
Whipsnade Zoo.
Yeah,
Yeah,
amazing.
very good. Any more questions from anyone? Very happy to answer if we can. Oh, that sounds like a good idea, Sarah. You could. The leaders' night can involve things that can't be there on the other night.
I love that idea of
Absolutely.
leaders' night. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, yes, you still have to risk assess it,
Yeah.
but it will be a lighter touch risk assessment because there'll be less risks than having 20 children running around your feet. Oh, someone said the link for the promise webinar didn't work.
We will look at that, Doreen.
We'll have a
Yeah,
look,
we'll have a look.
Doreen. I just tried it from the chat and copied it straight in to the bar on Google, and it went straight through for me. And I think I saw that somebody else has already booked on.
Oh yeah, Fiona says
Yeah.
she's booked.
Yeah. Doreen, I'll email it to you.
Sarah, no, you don't have to
No.
provide a program for the leaders night. What you do have to bear in mind is if you've got any young leaders there, then you need to do a ren for that night as well. Brilliant. Well, it's so lovely to know that so many of us are all signed up to do this. It's really exciting. It's one of the things that I wanted to do when I first came into post. I just can't believe how well it's taken off, how amazing it's going to be. And I think this is one of the biggest events across any region across the country, Bonnie, isn't it? So it's so exciting that Anglia region are leading the way on this. So well done, everyone.
Absolutely. I think Girl Guiding are also going to join us at the packing weekend in November
Oh, okay.
to take some photos and some footage, and they'll be doing some comms for us over the actual pajama party weekend as well. So hopefully some nice national coverage, which is brilliant.
Wonderful.
And I think you're right. I think this is the biggest regional event in terms of participants that
Yeah,
they've seen. So yeah,
yeah,
amazing.
yeah. It's absolutely fantastic. Someone was just asking about the merchandise. The ladies are working on it in retail. They've been really busy over the summer with Hobbies Fest. It's been a very busy year for Anglia. But they are planning to get it all out, I think, before Christmas, so that it's available for Christmas presents if needed. So
Yeah.
watch this space.
I met with Louise, our retail manager, this afternoon actually, and she's confirmed the 4 items that she'll be looking at as additional merchandise. They've been back over the member survey that we did to ask for input from our members. And what we heard generally was not too expensive, please, nothing unnecessary, and really usable items that could be used not just at the pajama party. So all of that's been taken on board. And there are some exciting things to come, and Louise will ensure that we get orders out so that we can make sure they're delivered in time for Christmas.
Wonderful. Oh. Yeah. I don't know, Ruby. We're not allowed to say.
I think Louise just wants to make sure that we can get the items that we want and get them
Absolutely.
branded
Yep.
and the right quality and the right delivery times, and then we'll be able to open up for orders, Ruby. So as soon as we possibly can confirm that, we will.
That's one for you, Bonnie.
I'm going to pass it to Paula. On the promise booking link, there is the option to ask for support.
Sorry, I couldn't unmute and I can't see the question. So
on the promise booking link, there's the option to ask for support in logging in for those who need it. We will have somebody
yeah,
in the comms team supporting on the day to ensure if you need any help getting onto the webinar that we've got some techie assistance, and we will share the email address for that closer to the time. So if you need to contact somebody, we can make sure everybody can log on. Gemma, is that the kind of support you're asking about?
Okay. Has anyone got any other questions?
I think we have captured them all. That was info for those who were struggling with access.
Oh, there was someone further up that said they were going to struggle with signing in because of access.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you,
Okay.
Peppy.
Well,
If you
look
could
at
get
that.
your leader to share her email address with us, we can check that email went out to make sure that it's not blocked in the future. The links often come from Eventbrite directly, and sometimes can find their way into spam and junk emails. But we will try to make sure that the link is with everybody ahead of the game. And we will have technical support as well, with an email address for people to contact if they're struggling. Yes, please, Peppy, if you could send it to events at, I'm just going to type it into the chat and then you'll know where to send it.
Thanks, Bonnie. Okay, so I think it just remains for me to say thank you to everybody for joining us this evening. I hope you found it useful. We continue to do our organising, and we have a massive packing weekend in November where we will be packing all your event packs, and then they will be sent out to you. So think of us all while we're stuffing envelopes or whatever it is that we are doing. But yeah, it is me and Paula, and even the chief is going to be there as well, helping us stuff envelopes. So it's all hands on deck for that weekend. And we do have another webinar, which will oh, thank you. I like your thinking. Yes, so our next webinar is, I have my timeline here. Oh, thank you. If we do need extras, we will come out and ask for you to come and help. That's really, really useful. So our next webinar is on the 9th of January, I believe. So look forward to seeing as many, or to, yeah, as many of you to sign up. Then we'll go through your REM part 2. Hopefully Karen might be able to join us then. I think you're signed up now, Karen.
Yep, all around.
And then our final webinar is on the 5th of February. So not long before the actual event, just to go through any final bits and pieces for you. Do keep asking questions if you need to, if there's anything you need. You've all got the information that you need. There'll still be comms coming out on social media, so keep a lookout for that. As Bonnie mentioned earlier, the activity cards are out. Just as a draft copy, you will get a hard copy in your packs. And yeah, just keep on planning. We're all going to have an amazing time. Just think of how many people are involved. Thank you for being amazing, Anglia.
Lots of excitement in the chat as people are
I
signing
know,
out.
it's lovely. It's so nice.